The Ole Miss Rebels have to travel to Norman, Oklahoma to play Brent Venables and the Oklahoma Sooners this year. 1 week after you go to Georgia, I might add. How will this break down? We're going to talk about it next on Locked on Ole Miss.
You are Locked on Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked on Ole Miss. I am Brian Smith, in for Stephen Willis. Thank you for making Locked on Ole Miss your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. So please subscribe and give us a thumbs up and a 5-star review. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when you win your first $5 bet. So today at the end, I'm going to talk a little bit about recruiting ramifications because there has been yet another update to the House settlement case. In case you're wondering what that is, it's the information about the NIL. The NIL part in the agreement is pretty much done. But the part about reducing the roster down to 105, it's been a bit of a difficult situation, let's just say, because some walk-ons and other players that wouldn't have a place to go would get canned. So to put it mildly, they're giving a carte blanche to schools. They don't have to do it this way, but if they want to keep players, they can. If they don't want to keep them, those kids can transfer, be eligible immediately. We're going to talk about some of that later on in the show. Now, to start, and for the majority of the show, we're going to talk about a very unique game this year. Had somebody ask on the Locked on Ole Miss podcast YouTube page, hey, could you preview Oklahoma? Sure. It's one of the more unique games on this schedule for a bevy of reasons, and maybe number one, depending on how you want to look at it, because Oklahoma head coach Brent Venables, who used to be the DC for Dabo Swinney at Clemson, is on the ultra hot seat. Under no circumstance do Oklahoma fans take going 6-7 lightly. And that's what they did last year. Brutal schedule, but they went 6-7. Maybe worse for them. That's a team that beat the bejesus out of Alabama, but lost to other teams, not just bad, but like got their heads kicked in. Yet they also had a magical comeback win at Auburn. Like they were the complete opposite of consistent. They were a roller coaster. And their schedule is difficult again. Whatever game they played in the SEC, just like Ole Miss on the road last year, is now at home and vice versa. So Ole Miss beat them last year, so there's a revenge factor. You have Venables with a veteran defense, a lot of guys back. You have a few guys they lost. We'll talk about some of their key players, but this matchup starts with one player. And if you take nothing away from this podcast other than the following, you're still going to do really well. The next 5 or so minutes is going to be worth your time and then some. This is a player that I have researched numerous times for different podcasts on the Locked on the Portal show, going on the Oklahoma podcast and talking Locked on Sooners, talking to those guys, John and them over there. I know John Mateer very well because I've studied him, watched his film, his stats, comparison, and he is just flat out a dude. He's a kid that was barely ranked at all. Came out of the Dallas area. Washington State was his one decent offer. Has a really good year last season, blows up 15 rushing touchdowns, throws 29 touchdown passes, transfers with his offensive coordinator, very big distinction there, to Norman to play for the Oklahoma Sooners and Brent Venables. Now they have a legit quarterback, because last year it was just a mess. I saw Oklahoma play in a game at Auburn, the one they did the comeback. Like their passing offense was a hope and a prayer. And the one prayer they had last year, a bomb got connected to help them beat Auburn. But they were just embarrassing on offense. And part of it was injury. They had 6 guys out, literally 6 guys out at wide receiver due to injuries. That's insane. Like having more than 2 is a concern. 6, I don't even know how to put that in perspective. Obviously, that won't be as big a deal. But Mateer is going to have some players to throw to, a lot of size, which gives me some concern because Ole Miss's biggest question mark probably is the secondary this year, although it's gotten better through the portal. So here are some of the reasons that I think Mateer is going to be good, and then I'll dive into a little bit of what's going on with their receivers. But Mateer, again, very athletic, got decent size, 6'1", 205, 210. He can really run, not just straight ahead. Like he can make make defenders miss. So we'll have a few questions on him in a moment. But last season, he was 224 of 347, 64.6%, 3,139 yards, 9 yards per attempt, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. I mentioned he could run. There are two scenarios here, and it depends on how you want to look at stats. So take it for what it's worth. And to note, the NCAA / the worst organization in sport, they count sacks against quarterbacks in their rushing totals. So I want to give you two set of stats and kind of put it in perspective here before I get into it a little more about Mateer. The biggest thing to me is whether or not you can stop Mateer from running, especially in those scramble plays for the whole game. That's probably the biggest key. So with that, his stats, just based on traditional NCAA stats, are 178 carries for 826 yards, 4.64 yards per tote, 15 scores. But if you take away the stats that are related to sacks, and I do use PFF to do this, Pro Football Focus, 149 carries for 1,008 yards, 6.8 yards per carry, 15 touchdowns. That's a huge difference. Like their offensive line, I'm not trying to pick on them, but like Washington State's not the same thing as SEC football, obviously. They had some really good receivers. They had some guys that could play for anybody, but the offensive line was And they weren't that good the year before when Cam Ward, who was at Miami last year, when he was still at Washington State, same kind of deal. And here's the other way to look at it too. He was dominant when he just decided, you know what, I'm just going to pull it and run it. He had 46 times that he pulled it down on a design pass and ran. 8.7 yards per carry, 401 yards scrambling. John Mateer is the guy that if you play zone defense, he can make the middle linebacker or the spy miss and go get you. And if you play man with the defensive backs having their back to the line of scrimmage, he can go for 70. He'll also truck somebody. This is a legit athlete. Like he is put together. And the difference between his photo, like I looked up his photo from high school, he looked like a little kid. He kind of had a weight growth spurt and just like size. Physically, he's obviously put in a lot of time at Washington State lifting weights, but he looked like a totally different human being. And he ran over a lot of guys. They didn't think they were going to get trucked and did. This is a really unique football player. He could be the difference in whether or not Venables keeps his job, whether or not Oklahoma gets back on track. But I guarantee you, he will not be a guy that doesn't play hard. This game will start and stop with what happens with Mateer overall, but especially with his legs. Now, I noted already that this is a game that you're going to be playing at Georgia, and then you turn around and you go to Norman. So Ole Miss obviously doesn't get the best of breaks there. However, I do want to note Mateer is probably going to be beat up too, because the week before, Oklahoma might have, depending on how you want to look at it for the quarterback, a worse deal. They go to South Carolina, who might have had the best pass rush in the country last year. Oklahoma was not as good as they needed to be up front. They lost some guys. They took a step back, but they still have Bedenbaugh, maybe the best offensive line coach in the country. They have several guys back. They've got a couple of elite freshmen coming in to push the pile. They'll be better up front, and they're loaded at running back. They just got Jaden Ott, tremendous running back from Cal. He didn't have a good year last year. He was beat up, and their offensive line was terrible. I saw Cal play too. Their offensive line was horrendous, but he's a burner. They've got the kid that was the stud against, of all teams, Alabama, as a true freshman in the lineup. Their running back room, I mean, that was Xavier Robinson. He might be third team, and he ran over Alabama last year. Like, he's a 225-pound tank. And they also have, among other players, they got Javonte Barnes, an experienced guy that's like 215 pounds. They're going to be really good at running back. So if you want to sit back in zone and make Mateer throw underneath, and he likes to throw bombs, he's really good at throwing down the field, you can get exposed. You can be exposed really, really quick. So here are a couple of notes on him as a passer that I think are really, really important. If you look at his numbers overall, yeah, he can throw it down the field. He can do some different things, but it's not just being able to throw it down the field. It's really hitting big plays. And again, he was at Washington State. They were playing from behind a lot. Their offensive line wasn't that great. So take these with a grain of salt. But on passing plays with the ball traveled 20 or more yards beyond the line of scrimmage last year for John Mateer, he was 25 of 63, 39.7%, 821 yards, 13 yards per attempt, 12 scores, and 6 picks. Now, part of the picks are on him, part of it's good defense, and part of it's the receivers not really doing their job, if nothing else, to knock the ball away. But he can throw it down the field. He's got the arm. He will be in some capacity an NFL player. I don't know if Mateer is going to be a guy that's dominant at the NFL level, but if you can even make it to the combine or be an unrestricted free agent or undrafted free agent and make a team, I think Mateer would. There's no reason to think that he's not going to be really good this next season. I know it's a new team. I know Oklahoma's got some concerns, but when we come back, I want to talk about 3 of the receivers, and among others, that they're going to have. They've got some talent, and if Ole Miss is not ready, the Ole Miss secondary will suffer. That is next here on Locked on Ole Miss. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more, experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. It's also fast and makes it very easy. So post your job free and very simply. Within one day, you're going to have multiple qualified candidates to choose from. That's why you should use it. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That's Upwork.com to connect to your top talent and grow your business today. If John Mateer is able to run around and make plays, he will. One of the biggest keys for Ole Miss will be keeping him in the pocket and making him do the traditional, and I know this is boring, but make him read the defense and just throw the football. Most quarterbacks talk about that, but about 1 in 500 are actually good at it. Because in today's defenses, everybody's changing after the snap, running some kind of zone on one half the field, man on the other, a switch defense, whatever. They're going to mix it up. Now, Ole Miss may not do that as much this year with so many new parts in the lineup, but they're going to do some different things to try to make it difficult on Mateer. And above all else, in the front 7, they're going to try to just form a pocket around him a little wider than what you would think of maybe as a tight end box, in my opinion, to make sure if he wins, it's because he's just throwing darts. If he's 100% on the money that day, so be it. You walk away with a loss, whatever. But you do not, I repeat, you do not allow John Mateer, A, to be a runner and just dominate. They'll run quarterback power, quarterback draw, and all that stuff. And you do not allow him to run just bootlegs and waggles out in the flat, and especially extend plays for the next 3 guys to get open that little more time and create problems. They got 2 big guys and 1 slot I'm going to talk about, among other receivers. They have a lot of guys coming back. They've got a key transfer. This is a really hard scenario to figure out. The talent is there. It's just all these guys haven't really played together. So we'll see what happens. And by the middle of the season, this game is on the 25th of October. We'll know a lot about Oklahoma's offense and obviously a lot about Ole Miss's defense. But this is fascinating to me. So Javonte Gibson, a kid that came over from an FCS program, one of the Louisiana schools, he had over 1,200 yards last year, 9 touchdowns, 70 catches. I don't care what division you play at. If you put up those kind of numbers, you can play football. And he's 6'2" and nearly 220 pounds. And he's the smaller receiver. You heard that correctly. He's one of the smaller guys. Ole Miss may not have the DBs to just play man all the time. I hope they're ready to mix it up. I think Oklahoma is going to chuck it around and be a lot better on offense than some think. Just my gut. But with a guy like Javonte Gibson being a player that comes over with over 1,000 yards and 9 scores, and he's just the tip of the iceberg, this could be very interesting. Another Gibson, Jaden Gibson, a kid that I actually know from high school days down in the Orlando area, is coming off an injury last year, didn't get a play. But he's 6'5", close to 200 pounds, and he can really run. He was an elite recruit. Every school in the country offered him out of high school, Florida, Georgia, everybody. He chose to go to Oklahoma. Now, he's only played 1 season, redshirted, played as a redshirt freshman, then got hurt again. But he has elite talent. That is a boundary receiver that has something to prove. He's in his final year at Oklahoma, if he can help it, to try to go to the NFL. Very motivated young man. And again, he's at least 6'5". Very athletic kid. Anybody in Ole Miss's secondary that wants to get head tapped, get out of position, because Jaden can really run, even though he's a 6'5" kid. If they take him lightly, because he didn't play last year, etc., this is a guy that can light up the scoreboard. And then finally, the opposite side of the size spectrum, this is where it's just fun. College football always has one of those guys in every game, it seems like, that's the smaller player that can really cause you problems. Deion Burks, 5'9", 180-pound slot. In the last 2 seasons, he's had 10 touchdowns. Most slot receivers don't score that much. Now, he could play outside some too, but he's 5'9", 180. Making tackles on him in space. Again, I'm going to be pointing right at the Ole Miss secondary, and to some degree the linebackers. They have to be ready for him on screens. Some of those plays where they run the jet motion, maybe run some kind of fake to him, then fake a pass over here, then they come back to him. They're going to do anything they can to get him in a one-on-one with a linebacker or a safety. I would. He's very elusive. If Ole Miss is not ready for that, that will be a troublesome spot. Now, I want to shift over to the defense after this next comment, but this might be the biggest key to all those things I just talked about with the Ole Miss defense going against all those skill players. Oklahoma's offensive line, they were okay last year, had some guys banged up, some new guys. It just didn't go that well for whatever reason. And then once the quarterback play suffered, everybody just sucked in all the players into the box, and it was just downhill. They averaged 155 yards rushing with a mobile quarterback. I mean, the Hawkins kid that took over at quarterback at a freshman, he had no business being out there as a passer. But as a passing offense, they only averaged 175, and that's with being behind a lot and having to throw. So if that offensive line doesn't get going, and I think it will, they got a lot of talent coming back, got some experience now. If that doesn't get going, they're in trouble. I think Ole Miss will try to crowd the line of scrimmage some, but they're going to mix it up, like I said before. I think that's almost guaranteed because Mateer is a not just experienced quarterback. He's somebody that's made people pay for coming up near the line of scrimmage. He can throw the deep ball. They've got size, they've got speed, and they've got a chip on their shoulder. Oklahoma was 6-7 last year. That's just not like Oklahoma. So they're going to play with their hair on fire, I think, for most of the season. I don't know if it'll work out because besides Florida, they probably have the toughest schedule in the country. But again, they've got a lot of talent. So you must be able to handle their offensive line. If you can mitigate what they're doing in the run game with their traditional running backs, and again, they're very good at running back, have a lot of talent there. If you can mitigate that and keep Mateer in the pocket, I couldn't say that 50 times and say it enough. Must keep Mateer in the pocket. You can beat them. But if he gets loose quite a bit, especially early in the game, oh boy, that is no good. You have to be able to do something against him in regards to keeping him in the pocket, or there's going to be a couple plays where just his incredible ability, his natural God-given talent will take over and he'll cause you problems. On defense, I just want to highlight a few players for Oklahoma and then go through a few questions here on the other side of the break. Dominic Williams is the kid they went out and bought out of the portal last year. He's back. Nose guard really good. Jaden Jackson was a true freshman last year. Kid I know, played at IMG. He's a dude. So interior D-line for them is awesome. And then they got a 5-star right off the bench in David Stone. Tremendous football player, tremendous athlete, especially as a pass rusher. You're going to have to be creative to run the football against Oklahoma. They had a really good run defense last year. They're a team that's going to mix it up. And maybe the best matchup of all year will be Kiffin and his offensive staff going against Venables and his defensive staff. Elite matchup. I love it. But I don't know how you run the ball against guys that are probably going to win the matchup a lot. If Ole Miss is generic with their run game, it'll be 2nd and 8 all day. So, and I'll get to this question in a second. I'm going to bring it up in part now. How do you use Austin Simmons with the run game? Just going to throw that out there. I want you to think about that for a second. So Marvin Jones Jr., very highly touted kid out of American Heritage High School in South Florida, went to Georgia, didn't work out, went to Florida State, was okay, transfers to Oklahoma. He's a defensive end that could be really good or not. He's a freak show, but he's not always consistent. That's a guy to watch. Peyton Bowen, elite recruit out of high school, committed to Notre Dame, committed to Oregon, signed with Oklahoma. His little brother, Eli, is a corner. Those two guys are key players. Peyton's the better of the two players, in my opinion. He's a little bigger. He's a safety, but Eli's good, but at 5'9". If Ole Miss is going to pick on anybody in this game, and I'm sure Eli's used to it, it's going to be Eli. You've got to find a way to use your tight ends, your running backs, and everybody to get at him, screen game, beat him up, whatever you can before you even throw at him, because he's really talented. But he's only about 5'9". Maybe you can get a fade ball or a corner route. Somebody can make a big play on him and then score. I would not be surprised. Now, as far as another guy, this is always tough. They got another corner coming back, Gentry Williams. He only played in a couple of games last year and then was hurt. But the year before, in 2023, he played 342 snaps. He's a good football player. That's one smaller corner, one guy coming off injury. I trust Venables as a defense coordinator, but you're still coming back in a situation with, you know what, two guys you're not sure about when you're playing elite competition because one's injured and one's smaller. I like Eli Bone again, but he's 5'9". When we come back, I'm going to have some questions about this game, and I want your take on it, and I'm going to finish up with the House settlement case. That is next here on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action than with FanDuel. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game, tip-off, live, or any other time with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have many ways than ever to play smart and to win big. Here's a scenario for you. Close games in the playoffs. It's one of the reasons I've always liked watching the NBA on TV and watching the games. Second halves. It always seems like there's somebody that catches fire. Can you figure out who that is? And maybe that's the bet you make. Somebody that's going to score 10 or more points in the third quarter, something like that. Player props are a lot of fun. And if you don't like that, you can always still do in-game bets because you can live bet on this with FanDuel. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's talk about a few key overview points for the Oklahoma game. Again, it's in Norman, and it's the week after Georgia. It's not exactly an easy circumstance. Remember, Oklahoma's coming off a 6-7 season. Brent Venables is going to be in a lot of pressure-packed games. Their schedule is brutal and, quite honestly, ridiculous. And they play South Carolina the week before on the road. Pay particular attention to that game. As history has shown, when teams get their butts beat, especially on the road and they come back home, sometimes they're revitalized. It's kind of like being galvanized as a unit because you got nothing to do besides just come out fighting, come out swinging from the corner. If South Carolina puts a licking on them, I'd be worried if I was Ole Miss. You never want to play the team that's mad. And he's going to be fighting for his job. I don't think they're going to be dominant, but I could see Oklahoma winning 8 games because they've got the talent to win some close ball games, more guys back, their defense will be good, etc. How much do they fight for Venables in these close games, especially against Ole Miss if they lose that South Carolina game? That next game against Ole Miss might be the reason he either stays or goes. By that point in the season, it's going to be teeter-totter point. Is it going to be enough for him to keep his job? We'll see. Number 2, this is the point that I brought up earlier, and I'm just going to be more direct with it. Can Ole Miss keep from placing an extra defender in the box, so you keep Mateer from throwing as many bombs, cover 2, cover 3, that kind of stuff, and still keep them from running the ball? Pretty sure their O-line is going to be better. They have a loaded running back room, and Mateer is a flat-out weapon as a runner. He'll run for at least 500 yards this year in the SEC, guaranteed. Don't let him be that guy on that special play, especially like a 3rd and 1, miss a run gap bit, and he just takes off for 80 yards and scores. You cannot allow the free touchdown in big games like this, especially on the road. Those people are dying for anything to root for after 6-7. If you give them a chance, they will go bananas. The other part here, just real simple. I don't know the answer to this. How do you think the Rebels react with back-to-back road games as tough as at Georgia, at Oklahoma? It's hard to say Because if you're beat up, and by that point in the season, again, that'll be October 25th, it's very plausible that Ole Miss is in a scenario where they need to come out swinging and play with a lead. Especially if you were physically beat up from the week before. Georgia's going to beat you up some. Whether you win or lose that game, you're not going to be anywhere near 100%. That's a really interesting question. How do you handle it mentally? Plus, Georgia, that's a different kind of emotion playing against them. That'll be interesting. Number 4, how does Ole Miss run the football without the use of Austin Simmons as a designed runner, meaning quarterback counter, cornerback trap, power, draw? You want to do everything within your power to win the game, but Austin Simmons is your guy. Do you really want him getting smacked around by that front seven of Oklahoma, which will be very good? He's going to take some shots. I get it. But if you can run the football, say 4 yards a clip, and do so consistently, you give yourself a far greater chance to win the football game. If you do not, if you're in that 3 yard per carry or less range, oh boy, Austin's going to be in more third and longs, more chances for turnovers. Plus, he's probably going to be in a few more scramble situations, trying to pick up a 3rd down and 8, making guys miss or dropping his shoulder. That's not good for Austin long term, for one, and it's sure as heck not good for Ole Miss football in general. Need to keep him in some specialty situations, maybe a naked bootleg on the goal line, or quarterbacks, they're going to run some RPO, and he'll definitely do that. But if you can keep Austin from having to run, you're probably not only going to be better shape to win the game, but win the season, if you know what I mean. Number 5, Rebels red zone passing. Brought it up a couple times already. They should go with Eli Bowen, but they're going to have to get the ball out quick. Oklahoma's front's good now. I'm telling you, they're good. If you do not, Oklahoma might force a lot of field goals. That's not going to get it done. One of the reasons Ole Miss didn't get it done last year is that, like the Florida game, they stunk in the red zone. You've got to find the mismatches, and you got to take advantage. Eli Bowen's good, but he's not that big. Do not be surprised if Kiffin goes up top and tries to get somebody to head tap him on a deep shot into the corner on a fade ball. It's an open-ended proposition because he's a 5'9" corner. Next, early scoring. I mentioned it a moment ago, but if you could get up 7-0, 10-3, something like that going into the second quarter, take the crowd out of it in Norman, that's a rowdy bunch. It would do wonders for a young quarterback like Austin Simmons. If you don't, how well are you really going to do in this game? Getting behind 10, 14 points in that place, it'll be a zoo. Next, in-game adjustments. I talked about this a little bit as well. Kiffin versus, not just a good defensive coordinator, but Venables is one of the best of this era. There's going to be a play somewhere where one gets the other one. That gotcha moment, who does it? And finally, Ole Miss passing plays of 20 or more yards. Simmons is my guy. I know him from high school. He's a great kid. His dad's cool. All these guys are going to be rallying around him. But on the road in Norman, that is not an easy place to play. Can he hit a couple shots down the field? Again, to not only put points on the board, but to shut up that crowd. There's nothing like sticking it to a team with a 70-yard touchdown and watching everybody sit down and just in pure silence. Now to wrap up, just a couple comments on the House settlement case. There's a new ruling, as I kind of alluded to at the beginning of the show, where you can't, it's an option deal. Teams don't have to get rid of the players, but they can if they want on the 105 rule. Everybody's been operating differently, but you're up to 105 scholarships, and even walk-ons have to count if you keep them on the roster. They're trying to give scholarships, basically, find different ways for the walk-ons to get scholarships. That's what this really is. But the schools don't want to pay for it. Let's cut to that. This is a money deal. They don't want to say it, but that's what this comes down to. Some schools will do it, some won't. From what I have heard, and I haven't heard anything on Ole Miss specifically, most schools are going to keep the walk-ons to a certain degree. How much? I don't know. But this is for the next year or two. And the case, from the way I read it, from the information that I got, as I do this late on Tuesday in the evening, there's an opportunity for you to get rid of them, but you could do this for a couple of years. And these kids, if you do cut them, the cool thing, I'll give them credit, the judge on this, if you get cut, you can transfer to another school. I don't know what Kiffin's going to do, but I do know SEC, Big Ten, or even G5, The walk-on program is important because those guys do things in practice. Some of the other scholarship players that you put on the quote-unquote scout team, they don't want to do. It's a really important facet of your roster. Team chemistry, giving guys a shot. I expect Ole Miss to eat the scholarships and be over 105. Any SEC school that's not, I'd question that a little bit. You've got all this money coming in, you can't pay for 5, 10 more guys or whatever it ends up being. Really? I'd have a problem with that. We'll see what Kiffin does and LSU and Arkansas and everybody else. I don't know yet, because even if they say one thing right now, let's see what happens on August 1st when all these fall camps really get rolling. That's when it matters, because they could change their mind. So let's see what happens with Ole Miss, because they need their walk-ons to be a valuable part of everyday life, locker room, weight room, practice, giving them good looks for the opposition, for the scout team. It is very, very important. Kind of sad to see it go this direction with the House case, kind of, getting it down to 105. There's different ways to look at it, but we'll see how Ole Miss handles it. But overall, I don't think it'll be a huge deal because Kiffin's a smart guy and he's not going to put himself in a bad position. Thank you once again for making Locked On Ole Miss your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to get your latest Rebels football fix. I am Brian Smith in for Stephen Willis. Having fun doing this. I hope you enjoy. I will have another show coming up on Friday. Stephen's got a show tomorrow. Here pretty soon, next couple of weeks, Stephen should be back in action. I don't know the exact date yet, but it's coming here pretty soon. So like and subscribe, give us a 5-star review. We will see you again soon on the Locked On Ole Miss podcast.